out there now, but he'll
there are other names too, but we won't.
And he'll give you more of an overview because this is such a unique type of opportunity. So it's not like a conference. There's no keynotes, different things like that. And so that's why we think it's really important to get together ahead of time so we can kind of talk about the purpose, the premise, and also what to expect so you can get ready and have the most enjoyable, most awesome, best conference, non-conference, workshop development ever. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to David Leidick, and he will share some more info with you.
Thank you, Christina. Afternoon, I'm really grateful that on a beautiful Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, still decided to come here. My name is David Leidick. I taught English at ACC for 37 years. And I know some of you, others of you I don't. We'll get to know each other more in Bandera. But I have been directing the ACC version of the Great Teaching Seminar. We call it the Celebration of Great Teaching now for about 13 years. So let me first, I found it's useful to do a couple of things before we talk about the more practical part of the weekend we'll have together. As Christina said, this is a unique kind of get-together. It's not a conference. It's not typical workshops. It's not staff development of a type you probably ever get anywhere else, maybe ever again. So I found it's useful, since we're all in one college and we can meet like this ahead of time. It's unusual enough what we're doing that I think it helps people feel more comfortable to talk about it ahead of time. That's all I'm saying. So people might not be quite so sure of themselves early. I hope this relaxes you. And a lot of what I say, I'll probably say again the first evening we're together, at least some shortened version of it, when we're in Bandera. But the Great Teaching Seminar is a particular model of faculty development begun in 1969 by Roger Garrison and David Gottschall. Now, David Gottschall is still alive and is still doing this. He's the guru, as you might imagine. I don't know how old he is, but he's getting up there. And what he started in Illinois has spawned, over the last decade, hundreds of weekends, days, some are longer, some are shorter, hundreds of versions of this. There are many, many institutional level versions of this, like ours. And most of those, as ours are about 2 days. Some are a little bit shorter, maybe half a day longer in a few cases. But the length of ours is a typical length. But there are state level conferences. You might know that the Texas Community College Teachers Association, TCCTA, of which all of you, I hope, remember, its annual conference was in Austin just last week, took over from, and I just lost their name, they did what they call the Roundup, a state version of this for over 20 years. And when they retired, TCCTA took it over. And now the Roundup of Great Teachers is sponsored by that organization. That's a state level. There's one in California, and not every state has one, many states do. There are regional versions. There is an officially designated national version of this, the Great Teaching Seminar in Hawaii. How cool is that, right? And this has been going up for over 20 years. It's on the Big Island. So there are many versions of this, and one of the great traits of this, and Gottschall's the man who helped begin and who's still kicking, will hardly write anything down. He likes the fact that it evolves naturally, that it's an oral, as much as anything, it's an oral tradition. And each version is different. There are some strict parameters he wants all those people to follow. I mean, he's a very laid-back guy. You can do what you want. But he likes that it's not very formally organized. There's no headquarters and no corporation, and nobody makes a living at doing this. So it's been around a long time, and it's just a particular model that we follow. Now, my own credentials I have found are probably a good thing to let people know of too. I started doing this at ACC in 1996 with no experience at all. But I had a good companion in Sandy Gaskins. Some of you may remember Sandy, a nursing teacher, and she had attended the very first of these, and I should say the first one of these lasted like 2 weeks, which may be too much of a good thing, but it lasted a long time. And Sandy was involved with some of the original ones, so she knew what was going on. And so there was a brief period when I was coordinating faculty development, and she said, "Hey, let's do this," and that started this. So we did it for about 6 years, and then there was a break of about 5 for various reasons, budgetary with some of it. But then we revived it in 2007, and we've been doing annually since then. So I've been doing all of those, as I will be doing this next one. I've helped with one in California. I mentioned that TCCTA took over the Texas Roundup, the state version. I led that for the first 5 years that TCCTA had it. I attended the one in Hawaii some years ago. It's always in August, and was lucky enough to be invited back the next year to help, just to be on the staff. And we had 25 or 26 participants, and then I guess 25, and then 5 facilitators, which is about what the state version does, about that number. The one in Hawaii has 60 or 70 participants, so it'll have 15 facilitators. Some are permanent; they work in Hawaii. Others are guests, and they come and go. So it's in the Big Island in Volcano National Park. Not a bad place to spend, and it's about a week long. So that's my experience with doing this. Oh, and I might say that beginning in the late 90s, I think 99, every couple of years or so, sometimes it's less frequent, there'll be get-together called Great Teachers Leaders Colloquium, where people who direct these get together and, using the same format we'll use, talk about directing them. So promotion and funding and activities and all this kind of stuff. And I went to the first one of those in Wisconsin, and then hosted the second one of those when Terry Michela was directing faculty development. Some of you may remember Terry. And then Christina and Missy and I went to another one of those this last summer in Bryce Canyon, Utah, where we made some reconnection. You get rejuvenated and re-energized about doing them, just like we hope you will be about teaching in the ones that we do. So that's a history, my experience with it. Some practical things. Let me be sure I don't miss anything. Actually, let me do this other thing first. I'm changing as I go. Something you'll get, I don't know if they have a copy of the purposes and premises here. I mean, you'll get one when you do have one? Oh, good, good. This is something David Gottschall, let me tweak a little bit, created a long time ago, and it still works. I mean, what he started still works, and all the varieties that it now has, these are still the core premises. So I just want to look over these because they're essential. So the purpose is simple. We celebrate what we do. How often do you get to spend any time at all with teachers to talk about teaching? When that's all you talk about, much less the weekend. And so it is teachers talking with each other about what we do every day, what we love to do. I mean, there's no better thing to spend your time doing, right? Well, you know what I mean. The second, I'm looking over the purposes. It is good for us to venture beyond our own everyday environment, right? When these are done at these seminars are done other places in the country, they're held in all kinds of places. But the basic idea is you get a group of people in a nice environment. Now, some colleges have dorms and we'll do it on campus, but we don't want to do that. I mean, well, yeah, let's go to HBC in room 201. Wouldn't that be exciting and different? So we go someplace, you want it to be close enough that it's accessible, but far enough that you're in a different place. You go to a pretty place and you eat a lot. There are two things I guarantee at the end of the weekend. You'll be rejuvenated and have a great attitude about teaching, and you will have gained 2 or 3 pounds. I don't know about you. I'm not used to eating 3 big meals a day. But when you're there, that's what you do. And I don't mind it. I'm not used to it, but I like it. So to get us together in a different environment to talk is one of the important premises, too. And some are held in Rocky Mountain National Park. Canada has a number of these held in like Jasper and Lake Louise, and just in magnificent surroundings. Well, Bandera is not quite Jasper, but it's not HBC. Promoting our own introspection, our own self-appraisal. I like to think that we're serious about reflecting in what we do, but we're not solemn about it. But we're serious about it. And this gives us a chance to do. Develop creative but practical, realistic approaches. What I love about this weekend is, think about the conferences you go to. If you get something you can use at some point, you're lucky. You look for those little nuggets here and there, and they're sometimes few and far between. I promise you that when you leave Bandera, you'll have a whole handful of things you can use Monday or maybe Tuesday. You can use them right away. They're immediately applicable. Exchange of ideas, expanding network. We learn best from one another. Keynote speakers are not allowed. We don't need any experts. We don't need any keynote. We are our own experts. It's the genius of the group that matters. And it works. I promise it works every time. Some of the premises, we learn best from one another. So as I say, no experts, no outside experts, no keynoters. Carefully facilitated workshops, discussions, everything that we do. You see what we do. Oh, the importance of mixing diverse fields, experience levels, and interests. When I go to English teacher conferences, actually one thing I like about TCCTA is the only conference where I can go to the geology session. I saw Damaris in the geology session, and they go to government and criminal justice. Sometimes I don't go to English at all. But most conferences we go to are in our own discipline with other English teachers. If I go to, English, NCTE or the 4 Cs, you have like 4,000 English teachers, which is way more than I can stomach, and I'm one of them. Way too many English teachers. Well, the beauty of what we do in this retreat is that we have people from all kinds of disciplines with all levels of experience. We have, by my quick calculation, among the group that we'll have in Bandera, 25 participants, 17 disciplines represented, and the range of experience goes from 1 year to 51 years in how long we've been teaching. Isn't it wonderful? And another thing, I promise that the distinction between full-time and adjunct disappears. You won't even know it unless you happen to know the person already or they volunteer some bit of information. But being full-time or being adjunct faculty simply dissolves. That distinction dissolves, as it should. So it's the diversity of experience and disciplines, and you may not, if you're a theater teacher, you may not think you have anything to learn from the guy who teaches welding, but I promise that you will, and he has things to learn from you. I promise that is the case. So the third premise here is, I've already mentioned, it's the collective wisdom and experience of the group that really surpasses the expertise of any one person. Simplification. We try to boil teaching down to its essence. Less is more. We're very low-tech. It's a low-tech conference. We only had the screen down because Christina has some pictures rolled. So there's not a lot of technical equipment. There's not a lot of technical expertise. There's a little bit, and we have lights and stuff. But there's really almost no. It's very, very simple. And that somehow helps it work better, I promise you. And of course, used to when we would talk about getting away from work, leaving the office and phones behind. That doesn't work anymore, of course. People have laptops, people have their phones, people try, you know how it is. When you're away from work, you still work. And that still happens. But for the most part, we step away from what we do every day and enjoy each other's company and learn from each other. Now, there are a few commandments that we try to enforce during this weekend. It's not a time for griping, for war stories, for negativity. We try to keep everything as positive as possible. We have a lot of social time in the evenings, and then Saturday afternoon you have some time off. Sometimes the best time is the in-between time. And so it's time for conversation, for reflection, for resting. So we have a lot of time over the weekend where we're not in any particular sessions or activity. And, you know, as you talk about whatever you want. But the basic idea is to keep it as positive as possible. So no griping is the first thing. Constructive feedback. I always like to use the expression, and I use it with my students a lot because I've been using this context, is that we criticize as allies. So if there's something we say, oh, I don't know if that'll work. We all love each other. We're all friends here. And so constructive feedback is encouraged. That's the nature of the whole weekend, really. There's always time to share. We'll begin with, and I'll probably, or Christine and Mitzi, talk more about some of the format we'll do, but the basic idea is we'll have a lot of small group discussions, and then we'll meet periodically for large group discussions and activities. And everyone should always be sure that everyone has time to contribute. We all listen, and we all give everybody else the time to be listened to. So time to share. Everybody gets equal time and is conscious of time limits. And then the last commandment is we all enforce a commandment. So in the small groups, for example, if there's 5 or 6 of you in a group, there's an hour for everybody to share something. We're running out of time. The facilitator may say, I'm sorry, but we need to be sure we have time for Bob to present his thing. But you can all do the same thing too. So we're all conscious of everyone having a chance to contribute. So those are these little things here are the core of the process. Some practical things. You've been asked by Christina to provide success and challenge papers. They don't have to be, in fact, we don't want to be long, involved things, but something that's worked is something that is still a challenge. And when you get to the retreat, we'll have all those in a notebook for you, so you'll have everybody will have everybody's success and challenge. And the very first thing we do, we'll probably have a big group to kind of get our heads right and answer any practical questions. But then right away on Friday afternoon, about 4, I think, we'll have our first small group. And I'll already have the groups all set before we arrive. So I'll say, we'll write them in it. We do have flip charts. We do have flip charts in terms of technology. And you'll know who you go and you talk for an hour or so. Now, we try to remain positive. So what we'll have are 3 small group discussions, 1 Friday afternoon, 2 Saturday morning. So we'll talk about the success, and then the challenge, and then the success again. But you'll be with different people when you're talking about success, as well as I can arrange groups where you're with different people each time. Each of those small groups will have a facilitator. Missy, Christina, I beg your pardon, I should have introduced them at the beginning. Facilitators who will be with us, the people who help keep this going, who are here today. Christina, who manages faculty development, will be there with us, will be a facilitator. Missy, who teaches psychology, teaches psychology instead of the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning, will be there. Christina Flores will be there. So they're all facilitators, and we have a guest facilitator, Paul Martin. I forget the name of his college.
It's in Canada.
It's in Canada.
Okay.
One thing when we met in Utah, directors of these things, we met this summer, we all exchanged lots of information and ideas. We thought it'd be fun to invite each other to be guests, and it doesn't cost anything except it's travel. You know, we're not paying him $10,000. We just pay him to come. In fact, we're not paying him anything. Which we're all used to, believe me. That's the way.
McEwen University.
McEwen University, yeah. We all roll that way, right? We're getting paid for doing extra things. But it's great fun. So he will be a guest facilitator too. Now he has not invited me to Canada. Maybe he's invited Christina. So Paul will be there. So I'll be there circulating, sort of looking at things, and then we'll have those 4 facilitators. And I might go ahead and thank Courtney. Courtney Graham's in the back, without whom all of this would be so much more difficult. Courtney is Christina's administrative assistant who makes all this happen for her. She does all the hard work.
Faculty engagement coordinator now.
Yeah, that's all right. I knew I should have remembered it. So we'll have 3 small groups, one Friday, because we got to get going and we got a lot to do. Success and then a challenge and success. Each will be different groups of people as well as I can manage. Then after lunch on Saturday, we'll meet as a big group and we'll set an agenda. You will set the agenda. The facilitators in the first 3 small groups, their job is to listen. They're not disengaged, well, they're kind of disengaged, but they're interested in what you're talking about. And later in the weekend, they can join in more as participants. But our job as facilitators in this is to listen and take notes and watch time and just be sure, you know, those kind of things are going smoothly. And then we all get together Saturday, the facilitators, and we make an initial list of topics which have seemed to bubble up fairly frequently or with a great deal of energy. So when you come back from lunch Saturday, you'll have these things written down in a flip chart. You'll consolidate, think of others, add to the list, and then you will vote. And it's what you decide on then will be the topics for the small groups for the remainder of the weekend, which will be, we'll have one of those in small groups on Saturday, 2 of those on Sunday morning. So you determine the topics. So we'll have 3 or 4 concurrent small group topics each time, so we can cover quite a few topics. Saturday afternoon, we have several hours of free time. We have lunch, a small group, and then
3 hours.
About 3 or 4 hours. You know, if you don't rush back to dinner or something, you can expand your time. So again, the best time is in between time sometimes. So you have time, maybe for horseback riding, except somebody seems to have reserved all the horses that we can horse hard. So we'll see. Normally it's horseback riding. So you have free time then. Now, Friday night and Saturday night, we meet as large group for activities. We work until 8:30, 9 o'clock each night. Work. But we'll have activities. So we try to follow what we like to call in this model, minimal rigid structure. You'll get an agenda because you have to know where to be at what time and when to eat and when to drink. So that's a social hour later. I'll talk about that. But if we identify a small group, at this time that's a small group, this other time small group, that's all it'll say really, large group. So the details are more up to you. We get it started, then you get it finished in the latter part of the weekend. So it's a self-determining, the participant-determined conversation more so as the weekend evolves. So we emphasize punctuality when it be in the smaller group or the large group on time, but we try to keep that kind of structure minimal, framework. Now we do have evening large group activities, some that we will conduct and then some that you might participate in depending. But then each evening after we're finished, 8:30-ish usually, we have social hour. And we'll designate a place. We found a good place at Bandera. We've been going to Bandera now for some years, but they have a new building with a nice big common area, and that's where we had our social hour. So from 9 o'clock each night, Friday and Saturday, until whenever you're done, we'll have social hour. And that's some of the very best conversations there. Now, be sure to get your success and challenge papers submitted so that that can be the spark to get the conversation started. Bring a book that is important to you in your teaching. Doesn't have to be a book about teaching. I'm an English teacher, so I like novels. I always bring novels. But they're important to me in their way in my teaching life. So it can be a book about teaching, but it doesn't have to be. So bring a book or two that have been important to you, and we'll display them on a table. And then at some point, maybe at 2 or 3 different times, we'll steal some time, and you can briefly explain why that book has been important to you. And then what we've been doing the last few years is after the retreat, Courtney and Christina will send a list to you of all the books that everybody brought, so you can be reminded of. So bring a book with you, a book or two that are important to you. Let's see. Nothing costs money. I mean, this is all paid for, except for your gas to get to and from. You go into Bandera, and your time off, that's all on you. Or if you do horseback ride or to play golf or something in your free time, that's on you. The only other money we have is for the snacks during our 2 social hours, Friday and Saturday night. Because we'll have beer and wine, and obviously we can't use school money to do that. So I asked for a donation of about $10 a piece, from $5 if you're not going to drink alcohol, if you like, $10 if you could drink alcohol. And you don't have to, there's no rush. You can wait until that weekend to give it to me. But that's the only, and I won't even keep a list. I just trust it. So, $5 or $10 to be able to buy snacks, including beer and wine. Now, in fact, Christine has a snack request list. And you can add to that later, but we can pass it around now, because a day or 2 before the weekend, I go to HEB and buy snacks. Now, I'll try to buy whatever you put on there, but we're limited to whatever HEB happens to have on its shelf. So if you have a very special kind of soft cheese made in Thailand, HEB I'll do my best, but HEB may not have that. But generally, I find most things.
The more specific you can be in general, then it's easier to find stuff. But if you have like certain dietary preferences, some people are gluten-free, so they request like almonds.
Yeah, I prefer extra gluten myself, but some people avoid that.
Different things like that. So the room that we're going to be in for our in-between times, I guess as David calls them, in our social hour, so we'll do at the end of the night, is a really large, like a large game room almost in some ways. It's in one of the lodge facilities, and it's a big room that has a full kitchen, and it has like a pool table and sitting areas. It has a patio with a fireplace, and it's just a lovely space where you can sit and talk to different people that you've encountered, and some people you know, some people you don't know. I like it, what do we say, like in the in-between times, that's when you get ideas and you get to know people, and sometimes when you're talking, more ideas happen, and especially if you have, your almond chips, or whatever, the beverage, sun chips, or red wine, whatever, that you choose to partake in. And so we're going to take this list from you today, and then we'll input it onto a Google Doc that we'll send out, and if you want to add some stuff to it later, we can add some stuff. You can see what we've got there, but we've got a pretty good facility for our in-between time, and have some opportunities to go. And then that way you don't have to buy snacks. It's all snacks.
I don't know if y'all been to Bandera or to the Flying L out there. It's a small town. It builds itself as a cowboy capital of the world, but so the whole bunch of towns I have found in the West. But it's a little dude ranch thing. It's got a water park. You see kids running around. Some of us will be staying in the building where we have the social time because there's wings, with bedrooms. Others will be in other buildings, but it's not that big of a place. None of the stuff is that far apart. So I think you'll find it very convenient. And I think we'll be doing our big group meetings in the room right next to the kitchen, to the dining room, which is good. Like you and eat, there you are. And it's always a buffet style food. It's not the very best food in the world, but it's pretty darn good. And there's a lot of it. And quantity to me is an important factor. This isn't very good, but at least I have a lot of it.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. I don't mean that. It's good. It's good food, but you know, it's not Jeffrey's someplace.
It's basic stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So success and challenge papers ahead of time are very important. Bring a book or two important to your teaching. Bring a musical instrument if you play one and you want, you know, because in the evening, you know, social times, people are sitting off in the corner playing the guitar, and there's a group singing or a group tell them how bad they played the guitar or something. I mean, it truly is free time, so whatever you want to do. But we're doing it together, and that's always a cool thing. You're not required to do that either if you're tired, of course. And I know Fridays are always kind of hard because you've worked a full week, you've driven out there. Our first small group is usually about 4 o'clock.
We start at 4, and we'll be sending you a reminder
Yeah.
email with the times. And in fact, I guess it's a good segue to our scheduling calendar.
Because that's all the information about the seminar and the model that I have to tell you, but I'll be glad to answer any questions. But Christina has some good other practical information.
Yeah. So get out some paper. We're going to take a quiz now. I'm just kidding. David went over a lot of the day-to-day procedures of the things that we're going to be doing at the retreat, but you don't have to remember it all because you'll get a binder and it'll have that minimally rigid schedule in it that'll just say some basic time blocks, so you'll have an idea. And like I said, we'll be sending you an email, you know, as we get closer to the event that'll say, you know, we're so excited to see you. Here's a link. Here's the address to make sure to use when you plug it into your GPS so you go to the right place. It is a very small town, though. I think there's 2 stoplights. It's the cowboy capital of Texas. And
Self-proclaimed, anyway.
yeah. And a lot of times, strangely, I'm not sure why, but we seem to be there the same weekend as the motorcycle festival that's out there and stuff. And so town is really interesting to go to because you see, you know, hogs or motorcycles and horses. People ride their horses into town and line them up there too. So it'll be interesting to see if we'll be all together. Now, it does take a minute to get out there, and so we put together some driving directions. And like I said, we'll be sending you an email with clickable links and different things like that as well. But I know some people, I'm really visual, I want to see it. So we put this together for you to kind of take and have. There's a couple of different routes to get out there, and we will also be sending you an email so that you can all figure out if you want to carpool. And some people carpool together, and you guys can figure out, like, if you're north and you want to carpool together from the Cedar Park area, or some people carpool from Central. We'll have an email going with probably another Google Doc that y'all can type into for carpooling and try to pull something together if you're interested. I know some people don't like to carpool, so they want to drive and sing and whatever. But a lot of people have carpooled in the past, and it was really an enjoyable way to start your retreat a little bit early and getting to know some different folks from across the district since we're so far apart. And so this kind of gives you an idea. You can take a look at the map, and it's far enough to be far away, but it's close enough to be not too far to get back to your house. Some people ask about grading, you know, and you do have some time. We suggest that, you know, you come to social hour for a little while, and then some people like to retire. But like David said, it's not mandated, the social time, but it is a nice time to come together. But for all the sessions that we have, we do expect you to be there for the sessions. Because you're an important part of this whole organic experience. I mean, it's organic. It's different every year. Every year I go, and every year it's different because there's different different people, different backgrounds, even different facilitators. We have guest facilitators and things like that. And so each time, I think, is really special. It's really unique, and it's really inspiring. I mean, I think Missy can talk to her in a minute about how it's inspired her and some of the work that the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning does. because it is such a rich thing. And we're really lucky here at ACC that our administration supports this type of faculty development. It gets us integrated with each other and refreshing and renewing our spirit. I don't know if you guys saw that article on tired teaching, how sometimes you just kind of burn out a little bit and you need to refresh your soul and refresh your spirit. And this always does it for me, just getting some inspiring ideas and different techniques, and then time together with colleagues, which we're always running around teaching, grading with our families, doing our other things, and we don't really have time to just sit and talk teaching, and this is going to give you a really good opportunity for that. Missy, do you want to share some insight? Sure. But you'll have to come over here.
The WebEx, I was just thinking about that. Hey, so I'm Missy Patterson, and I have been going to this retreat since 2008. I attended, that was my first one, and then I was invited to come back as facilitator. It is not overstating it to say it has changed my life. Everything I have done since my first retreat experience has been different than prior to that time. It changed the way I taught. It changed actually what my day-to-day job was, because I would have never applied for this assistant dean gig or thought that I could lead a faculty center except for what we did at this retreat. I hope that you guys will go in with an open mind. Have high expectations, though, because we will meet all of them, I promise, and probably surpass them. It is, if any of you have read The Courage to Teach or any of those kind of inspirational books about teaching, there's a lot that's discussed about a teacher's heart, and that we are just built different than the average person. What? Yeah, yep. And so that we have this, we're built different. Different things inspire us, different things make us excited, and really what I think this retreat does best is it speaks to the teacher's heart. And you will rediscover that if you're finding it waning, and if you're just finding out what that means to you, what teaching means to you, you will figure out more of it. So I really look forward to it. I look forward to getting to know you guys. And since I have been participating in this retreat, every year we do it, I wind up leaving and going, well, this was the best one ever. Like every year it happens, and I'm like, one year, no, it's going to have to go down, but it hasn't yet, because every year you guys make, well, I mean, it just happens, right? You guys make the magic happen. So I'm really, really excited. And I hope that after the retreat, you'll join us with some faculty center events, because everything we do is based on this model. Everything we do is about giving faculty time to connect and share what they do, and to learn from each other rather than a talking head, which I've just been. No,
and we want to make it worthwhile, because I know it is a lot to give up a whole weekend. That is a big commitment, and you certainly have to drive all the way to Bandera, and you got to worry about coming back, and you got to start the week after that. So it's a big commitment, and we want you to leave saying, man, that was worth it. It was worth that whole weekend for me to do that stuff.
Can't wait.
I know, it's exciting. It's always fun. It's always exciting.
So do you guys have any questions? We've talked about it a lot. So any on WebEx, does any of the streamers have questions? Courtney has questions?
I think this person is on the WebEx right now. She's not interested in what's the rooming situation.
Okay, so the rooming situation, if you've looked at, I know we sent out the link to the website. If you looked at the website, there's a lot of different types of rooms that they have. And so it is different based on the building that you may be located in, but in no situation will you share a sleeping quarter with somebody. So for instance, they have some rooms that are like duplexes, so it has a living room, a dining room, a kitchen, and then bedrooms. And so you'll have your own separate bedroom. Most of them have separate bathrooms, but occasionally you might have to share a bathroom with somebody. Some of them are hotel style with a single room, and then some of them have like a little common area and then separate sleeping quarters. And so where we try, we try to accommodate people. If you have a special need, like you have a CPAP machine that you're hooked up to at night and it's loud and things like that, let us know, and we can try to work with that within the parameters. But for budgetary reasons, we can't guarantee that everybody's on their own because, we have a certain agreement with the hotel. But I will say that almost all of their sleeping quarters are separated. You have a closed door, so you can go in your bedroom and go to your bed by yourself. You don't have somebody like 2 feet away, like some hotels where they've got the double queen beds or something. And so most people will be on their own, but most people, I believe everybody will have separate sleeping quarters. Good question. Everybody wants to know, like, who's going to be my roommate? And some people might be like, I don't know, roommate, I'm kind of not there. But Missy has a great story about that.
I met one of my teaching besties who was my roommate. So, like, and y'all, when we came to this thing, I was like, I don't like her. I mean, like, she was talking, I was like, I don't like her. And then we wound up being roommates. And I was like, come on. And now she's one of my best friends in college. So it's actually kind of, I would hope I got in a room situation with her. All right.
Among each group of participants each year, there are people who meet who become best friends. People who will work together, will seek each other out. It's easier if you're at one campus, but at different campuses, they will always be in contact at them. And every once in a while, the group in a given year will have like a reunion thing sometime 2 or 3 months later, just to get back together as a group and talk about it.
Not that I would do this, but are there any speed traps between here and there?
Depends on the route you take.
Yeah, we can't guarantee they'll be there. But I will tell you that Waze does tell you if there's police sometimes, because Wazers, that's what they call people that use that GPS app. Hi, anybody in here use Waze? Okay, 2 of you. So it's like another Google Maps or some kind of GPS program, but they can put in like, I saw a police officer, and it says, police officer in 2 miles, you know, or debris on the road. I mean, it'll tell you all these weird things, and I'm like, oh, and then you can say like, yeah, that debris was still there. Or, oh, yeah, that speed trap was still there. So I started using, I don't know Waze being there, but Missy has converted me. And I was like, well, it's so very helpful. And I know there's a car on the side of the road. You know, it tells you all those little messages. So it's kind of helpful, but, you know, small town, Texas, you might want to just, you know, ease the lead in the foot.
If you go up one route and you end up going through Schertz, which is, you know, south of San Antonio, or north of San Antonio, it has always been and is still somewhat of a speed trap. So you might want to go the other way. Go 46. It's a pretty drive anyway.
Is it 3 on the invitation email? Is it that we'd be there at 3 on Friday?
I believe so. I don't have it. Yes, 3 o'clock. So then you can check in, go to your room, drop your stuff off, and then be back at the main room by 3:45 for our first
So
session.
that's the hard deadline? Well, you need time before that to get to your, the 3 is leading a book club.
Yeah. Well, if you're like, we won't prohibit you from joining this. It's just good to have everybody there early. But people, it's hard to get there sometimes. So we're not being mean about it, you know, a little bit later. But we just started for a small group, and so it's hard to get your head into it if you're not there for that first. Yeah.
Tell them you want to Skype into
Just do the best you can. Do the best you can.
Yeah. And leave them on the passenger seat, then you can just listen to them through your Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Or you can
Is there a preferred dress code?
As casual as you want to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always casual.
Casual but decent.
Well, decent.
But I will say that sometimes it gets cold, so you may want to layer, and so you can have like a sweater or jacket to put on in case it's cold, or if it gets hot. And you never know this weather, right? It's like so hot.
But shorts, sandals, and T-shirts are fine.
Yeah, I mean we're you know it's casual. We're at a retreat, but you know just decent.
How many are you expecting?
We're going to have 25 participants, and we have the 5 of us facilitating. So there's 30 of us all together. Yes. No tech. We're low tech. Yeah, we're trying to break away and.
Not unless you just think you'll need it for yourself, but we won't.
Yeah, and some people have asked, like, oh, I'm teaching online, I have to grade. There is Wi-Fi in the main hotel that you can tap into, and there is a computer, like, in the hallway down there, but some people bring their laptop and go sit on the couches and use it like sometimes in the off times when we're not there.
Yeah, the setup is there's a main building where you check in. It's got the dining room and a couple of big meeting rooms that was sometimes, and it's got a little bar in it. But then there are other buildings, you know, quite a few other buildings with various rooms and various other kinds of facilities. The room where we will have our social hour is a separate building from the main check-in building. So it's a little complex of buildings, you know.
So we don't need to type anything up there.
Yeah.
Reflection,
I'm sorry?
We don't need to type any sign involved with extra.
No, that's right, that's right.
Yeah, and we will give you a binder, and there will be some paper in it in case you want to take notes or you want to jot some things down. There will be some different activities that we do, but we'll give you all the materials that you would need for the activities. So you really just have to work on bringing you and your open mind and your book and possibly your musical instrument. Some years people sing, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they play guitar, sometimes they don't. Don't feel obligated. And if you're not a singer, there's different parts of the room you can go to get away from it. Just kidding, just kidding. I'm not a singer. Nobody wants me to sing, so. Yes, Robert.
Will we have access to the water park? I'm just reading the question.
I believe our wristband can gain us access to the water park. I'll have to double check, but usually it's too chilly, and then there's not a lot of time. But if there is that block of time we have on Saturday that you could potentially access the water park. And there's also tennis courts that you can just go on, and there's also golf. They have their own golf course. And then there's excursions into town. Sometimes I get a group of people, and we all go and look at stuff. And then some people go for hikes. There's some hiking out there.
What we normally do for Saturday dinner, I shouldn't say this because now they'll change it, right? Because they changed it one time, is there's this
Ghost town.
well, yeah, ghost town with 1 million people in it. But it's but for dinner and Saturday, they put us in this tractor pulls this wagon. You sit in the bench, and y'all go down a couple of miles to what they call the ghost town, and that's where you have like a kind of a barbecue dinner, and that's where you have a couple of guys singing country western music. You've got the guy with the 6-shooter spin, doing all the tricks with that. You've got the guy with the bullwhip. You've got a little archery thing. It's just, still fun kind of place. Yeah, yeah. And actually, people are often disappointed about the time we leave Saturday because we can work to do later, They have started having this sheepdog show. And you go sit down in these little bleachers and you watch a sheepdog do the sheep. It's really cool, but it takes like an hour and a half. An hour evening is gone if we do that. So about the time they're starting together and our people start walking toward there, we have to be the bad person. You got to come back to the meeting room. We go, oh.
But you'll know the schedule because we'll have that minimally rigid schedule. So you'll know, then we'll start doing the.
But people don't always know how long this little sheepdog demonstration will last. It lasts a while, so we won't have time for that on Saturday. I'm sorry. No sheepdog.
And the guy that does the 6-shooter and the whip thing, I think he was in that movie True Grit.
Oh, he's in True Grit, the remake of True Grit several years ago. Yeah, with Jeff Bridges. He's a character. And most of the people who's working there have been there 20 years. I mean, they've been there since I have been.
Great questions. Any other questions? Questions from the online audience or? Like I said, I'm just really happy that ACC provides this opportunity. I got a chance. I did a week-long institute for new faculty developers, and I did a special session on running one of these because it's so oral tradition and they don't like it to be written down anywhere, and to be really careful how I broach sharing how we do this. But a lot of institutions are really excited about this, and some of them do have this opportunity, but only for full-time. And I feel that ACC is really special because we always try to make sure adjuncts and full-time have equal opportunities. We get to do things together. We provide, because we're all faculty, we're all here for our students, we're all teachers, and, we can all learn from each other. And that's why I like what David said about, your designation doesn't matter. We don't mention it. If they want to talk about it, that's fine. But it's not like, oh, the adjuncts will go over here and, no, we're all
I
together.
helped another college do theirs for several years, for 4 years, I guess, and the first 3 adjuncts simply were prohibited from applying. Full-time were the only ones who could apply. Then they relaxed that and opened it up, and it was a good idea. I thought it was unfortunate they chose to make it only for full-time faculty. We've never been restrictive in that. It does cost money, and it only affects 25 of you at a time. But in my experience, I mean, you take that same money and offer a whole bunch of workshops, but they're workshops. They're more typical. In my experience, the effect this weekend has in people is much longer lasting and much deeper than most workshops most of us have ever attended. So in that sense, I think it's worth the time that we spend there, and it's worth the more money it costs to, get everybody there compared to an hour workshop at HBC, but it's an hour at HBC there.
Yeah. And that being said, all of you have filled in our complicated forms that we've emailed you, right? The document, and I'm smiling at Courtney because she's created all these forms to master track everything. But, I understand sometimes things happen. We do have a wait list. We had over 50 people apply. And so if something should happen, don't no-show, stay in touch with us. We will be sending you our cell phone numbers because, when we're out, we're not here. You can't call my office because I'm going to Bandera. And so you can feel free to call or text me if you get lost or anything like that. But, let us know in advance should something happen where you can't go, because as David said, it does cost money. There is a cost involved, and you saw some of that on some of the forms. But mainly, we just want to make sure that we're making the most use of the funds that we're given and that we're providing the opportunity, because it works best when we have a full group and people commit to what they've committed to. And so, I'm so excited to see you guys here and see you guys online. And we'll be in touch with more information, but at any point, like you leave here and you're like, well, wait, I have another question. Email us. Let us know, because we're happy to answer your questions. There's no silly questions. You can feel free. We can talk all day about this, but we know you have things to do, and we've come now to the end of our time together.
There probably are some silly questions, but we won't tell you they're silly.
Sure. Let's make it all the way around.
And you can email us if you think of a snack that, I forgot to write that down.
Courtney's going to send out a Google Doc that we can add to once she inputs it all. So we'll send out another email with reminders, with the Google Doc for the snacks, with the Google Doc for carpooling, and we'll be in touch with that minimally rigid schedule. And you now know how long it takes to get there without traffic, but it's a lovely time to be driving through the hill country with the flowers blooming, unless it snows suddenly. But we will. Because now it won't happen because I said it.
We've always had great weather on our weekend, whenever it is. We've always had
We have had beautiful weather.
So if you have any questions, I'm not in a rush, too much of a rush to leave. So if you have questions, I'd try to answer them.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and call our session to a close. If you need to go and skedaddle, y'all can. But Missy, Christina, David, and I, and Courtney will be lingering around. If you want to ask questions, feel free. Or, like I said, you can email us as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on a Friday afternoon.
Is it possible to have look like some of
No, it's just from your heart. And no longer